Hello and welcome to BFS Wargaming. So today we're going to do a little live again, a little Monday afternoon live stream talking about the meta and the weekend's tournament results, that type of thing. So we're going to go on to Meta Monday. Let's change this. So we're going to go on to Meta Monday and we're going to have a look at the... Oh, wrong button. Have a look at the results. So we're going to start off with Meta Monday. Wolf Riders and Canaptic Legions is the title. So there was 12 events and nearly 1,000 players. So we're going to start off with the Manchester 40k Super Major, which was 263 players, 5 rounds. So I believe there was 5 rounds, but then there was like a top 4. Yeah, the top 4 had a playoff. So at the top was Necrons Canaptic Court. So this was actually Josh Roberts, I believe, who won. Got the 7-0, who is the guy that helps or works at GW in their balance rules writing team, whatever that is. So he was running the Canaptic Court. He does like the 18 Raves to Doomstalkers. I think he has some Immortals in there. The Acanthrites as well, like the Melter things, Melter Canaptic units. I'm not sure his list has changed much, but that's basically what he's running. Guard went 6-1, and so I believe they got to the final, which was David Gaylard playing against Josh Roberts. Tony Chu was in 3rd place with his Aldari list, which I believe didn't have any decannons. And then we had Admech, and I can't remember the guy's name who was playing Admech, apologies, who also made the top 4 cut. So, then we've got a Tau, a Blood Angel Sons of Sanguinius list, although it says Space Marines, but it's Sons of Sanguinius, so I'm assuming Blood Angels. 5-0, Tau 5-0, Black Templars Firestorm 5-0. So these guys all went unbeaten, but they didn't have enough points to make that top 4 cut. Then we've got a couple of Necron Hypercrypts, went 4-1. Another guard list went 4-1. Another Necron's Hypercrypt went 4-1. Black Templars, Ironstorm 4-1. A World Eaters 4-1, which is cool. Death Guard 4-1. Grey Knights 4-1. Another Necron's Canaptic Court. Blood Angels, another Sons of Sanguinius list. They're doing alright, these Sons of Sanguinius. 4-1. Grey Knights 4-1. And then Necron's Hypercrypt went 4-1. And also all the people between 21 and 47 went 4-1. And one of those was BFS Power and my brother, Dan Ferris. He went and he finished 26th and got the award for Best in Faction. And he was playing Drukhari Splinter, Sky Splinter. You know, the new detachment. And hopefully me and him we're going to do a little video and talk through how he done his games and also what he's got in his list and how he uses it and that type of thing, because that could be of interest to either people that are going to be playing against Drukhari or people that play Drukhari themselves. So then we have, let me have a look. Docs. Then we have Tau. The Adepticon Champs 2024, 256 players. So it was just a little bit smaller than the Manchester GT. Only 4 rounds. So the top 16 did a playoff, and the rest of the field played 4 rounds. Apparently the terrain was a lot better this year with GW layouts and terrain layouts. 4 rounds is very odd. You'd think it'd go 5 and then a cut, but so Tau went 7-0-1. Is that 7 wins and a draw? Yeah, it must be 7 wins and a draw. And Tau won. Then we've got Thousand Suns at 7-1, which is cool to see. Necrons in third, Chaos Demons, which is cool. Fourth, Tau, Tyranids, Thousand Suns, Necrons, Orcs, World Eaters again, Eldar, World Eaters, Dark Angels, Ironstorm, which is quite strong at the moment. Thousand Suns, Blood Angels again, and World Eaters. Nice. Okay, then we have a 256 player 6-round Firebug Open in Germany. And we've got a Black Templars Ironstorm list won that. 6-0. We've got Votann went 6-0. We have Drukhari Sky Splinter Assault, which is 5-1 draw. Death Guard went 5-1. Admech Skitarii went 5-1. Thousand Suns, Custodes. Again, it's quite a. I mean, there's quite a lot of Custodes here. There's a few Votann, Guard, Necrons, Drukhari. You know, you've got Orcs. Orcs, I think, seem to be struggling a little bit into this meta. I think that the Custodes aren't really winning anything, but they're just there. Do you know what I mean? They're doing all right. Votann, again, Votann 6-0 here. Votann are sitting there. I think Votann are in a good, not a bad place. If some things get like nerfed, Votann could rise up a little bit. Then we have All Is Dust, Petawawa, Canada, 54 players, 6 rounds. So we have a WTC scoring. So we have Custodes 5-0-1, Dark Angels Ironstorm. Again, that Dark Angels Ironstorm seems to be the only way Dark Angels are winning really, or doing well. Grey Knights, Drukhari again. So Drukhari are up there. Rosehammer 2, Portland, 54 players, 5 rounds. So I think that's OR. Is that Oregon? Tau 5-0. Tau are doing well. Thousand Suns. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen once they codex out. Whether they go down, up, who knows? Thousand Suns, Necrons, Grey Knights, Spacewall, Stormlance, 2 of them. Custodes, Necrons. OP March Madness in Santa Rosa, California. 39 players, 5 rounds. Spacewall, Stormlance won that one. Sisters are up there. It's funny. Sisters are good, but you don't see them that much. So, one of the chats, do me a favor and tell people to stop playing Dark Angels Ironstorm so we can show GW just how out of date those data sheets are now. I completely agree. But I do think that GW and specifically like, you know, Josh Roberts, he knows what's going on in the meta. I don't think that they will just be like, oh, Dark Angels are fine because they can play Ironstorm, because that's not right. They know that you know, it's only one detachment that's being played, and it's not actually any of the Dark Angels detachments. So I would be very surprised if, as GW, they just didn't touch Dark Angels, because they clearly do need help, and I think everyone could see that when that came out. Yeah, okay. There's a few certain people that have found, or there's been one list that's been found out how to play with Ironstorm. That doesn't mean that Dark Angels Codex is alright, and I think GW definitely know that the Dark Angels Codex is not alright. It needs some help, and I'd be very surprised at the very least we didn't see points drops across the board on a lot of Dark Angel stuff. It's clearly not good enough. Yeah, but sisters. I expected to see more sisters up in the top end of these tournaments, and haven't seen it, which is surprising. Chaos Demons up there again. Templars with their actual detachment. So we've got Talladega. I think this is Atlanta. Coco's March Madness. 31 players, 5 rounds. Canaptech Court win this one. Then a Necrons in second. Admech, Chaos Demons. What I will say is you can clearly see Necrons are too strong. Like, their win rate is just too high for the amount of people that are playing them. And it's clear that I think because of the durability of them, there needs to be some points increases on the most durable units. Space Wolves, Orcs. Then we have OTT Hamilton, New Zealand, 30 players, 5 rounds. Necrons Hypercrypt win this one. Tau, Necrons in third. Thousand Suns, Grey Knights, Aldari. We've got Sisters. Oh, Sisters won this one. In the Void War GT. Dublin in Ireland, 28 players, 5 rounds. I've got Space Wolves, Imperial Knights. Templars is arguably the most internally and externally balanced army in the game. I think that's the bar. I think Templars are very, very good. Yeah, maybe Templars is where people sort of need to aim for. I actually think Chaos Demons seem pretty good. I'm not sure how good their internal balance is, but they seem pretty balanced at the moment. Imperial Knights up there on third place. It's nice to see. Although I do think Imperial Knights is one of those armies. They're so skewed that you're going to have bad matchups and you're going to have extremely good matchups, and that's just the way it goes. Titan Slayer in England, 26 players, 5 rounds. Admech Radzone won, 5-0. Well done to that player. Space Wolves 4-1, Chaos Demons 4-1, Chaos Knights 4-1, Guard 4-1, Guard up there again. Blood Angels 4-1. If you're Gladius Task Force. Then we have Imperium Tertius 40k GT. Germany, 26 players, 5 rounds. WTC scoring. Death Guard went 4-1 draw. Guard went 4-1 draw. I'm assuming they drew against themselves. Imperial Knights went 3-2 draws. Wow. Custodians went 4-1. Doom at the Dojo, 22 players, 5 rounds. Grey Knights went 5-0. It's hard. I think it's really hard when there's only 22 players, or really under sort of 26 to 30. I don't know. I mean, Grey Knights are great, and they do really well, and they're a great army. Interesting to see. Okay, so Meta Monday's takeaways are Space Wolves with the best win rate of the weekend at 61%, and an event win is surprising. Of their 19 players, 6 went X and O and X and 1, with all top placing lists running Stormlance. It does seem like it's the only way to really, I think probably Gladius, to run the Wolves effectively, which is very interesting. Necrons remain the most played faction by far, with a 58% win rate this weekend and 3 event wins, including the largest event, bringing their wins up to 17 since the data slate. 24 out of 99 players in X and X and 1. See, that's a lot of players. That's what, a quarter of the players going X and O, X and 1. I do think they're probably a little bit too strong, and they're going to get a little tune up in the next data slate. Thousand Suns had a good weekend. No event wins, but a 56% win rate and 6 players going X and X and 1. See, Thousand Suns are such an odd army. Like they're not winning events, but I do think they're pretty strong and they can deal out a lot of damage. And Magnus is just really good. Be interesting when they get their Codex what happens. Tyranids and Codex Space Marines will remain the worst factions seen play. Both have healthy representations and 41% win rate. Both are just over 3 of their players going X and 1. Yeah, maybe I take back what I said last time. Maybe Tyranids do need some points decreases. Need a little bit more. What I'd like to see is Tyranids get a points decrease, and then something happen to that Biovore Spore Mine thing, so they can't use Spore Mines to score points, because it's just ridiculous. Them Spore Mines should not count as anything else other than like a marker to get blown up. And then I'd like to see their actual army then get decreased in points to then be competitive, because I feel like the Spore Mine Biovore thing is actually making their army better than it actually is. So then just decrease the points, get rid of the Spore Mine thing, and actually just play the game how the game's meant to be played, and just decrease their points or make data sheets better, whatever you've got to do. Okay, Dark Angels overall win rate was one of the worst of the weekends with 42%, but in Ironstorm it had a 56%. See, this is what I'm saying to think for yourself. This is the exact thing I'm hoping, like GWC this, that the 42% win rate and Dark Angels overall is really bad, and it's just the Ironstorm that's keeping that win rate up. Because imagine if Ironstorm weren't at 56%, this wouldn't be 42%. This would be way lower. Well, I say way lower, but you're probably looking at, you know, in the 30s, definitely. So GW must be able to see that and see that something needs to be done, you know, ASAP. I would say, I'd go to say, take Ironstorm out of it. Dark Angels are the worst army in the game. CSM had a 43% win rate this weekend, 25 players, only one of them going X1. Again, CSM, they just got nerfed too hard. They just need to just tweak it a little bit, give them in the next balance status slate, bring them back up. Although they're coming out with a codex not in the too distant future, so hopefully we'll see that, and we'll see them. You know, they've got 8 detachments to choose from. There's going to be competitive stuff in there, surely. Then we have Tau. Again, Tau really strong. Don't know what's going to happen once the codex comes out. Are they going to go up? Are they going to go down? Really interesting to see what happens with that codex, because I do feel like Dark Angels, sometimes the codex comes out and then they end up going down, but we'll see. I think that Tau got enough data sheets and there was enough there's enough good detachments in there that they'll be fine. Black Templars had a 50% win rate this weekend, but it's becoming clear that Righteous Crusade is holding them back, as it had a 39% win rate, while Ironstorm, Gladius Task Force, and Firestorm all had 52+% win rates. Which I still don't think Righteous Crusade is even that bad. I think it's still quite a good. It's a good detachment, I think. I just think maybe it needs a little bit of a tweak, and maybe the people that are taking Righteous Crusade aren't maybe the top players. I don't know, but then the top players are taking these other ones for a reason, because they're obviously better. I know that the other thing is as well with Black Templars, people are taking like vehicle heavy Black Templars lists, you know, and then throwing some like Sword Brethren in there and stuff. So I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure if that's a little bit skewed. Custodes won another GT this weekend. They were the second most played faction with 86 players, win 52% win rate. 9 of their players were X9, X1, which is about the expected for their player size. They still remain the second faction you must build to fight behind Necrons. Yeah, it does seem that Custodes and Necrons are maybe holding a few other armies down. And it's probably due to their durability. And I think that where some armies might not be able to deal with them, it's holding their win rate down a little bit lower. So it'll be interesting to see if we get some points, increases on like the Wraiths and the C'tans. I think that could maybe sort of fix this problem. And Custodes have got a codex coming out, so who knows what's happening there. Our data sheet's changing. Our Wardens still going to be able to pop a 4-up Feel No Pain? You know, these are all questions that I haven't got the answers to. What do you think, guys? Do you think that the Wardens are going to keep their 4-up Feel No Pain? Okay. So, Space Wolves. Weekend win rate of 61%. Overall is a 50% win rate. 72% was with Stormlance. That is a huge win rate for that detachment. 54% over the 8 weeks. Interesting. Firestorm has got 50% with them. What's the Gladius got? 49%. Oh, Gladius isn't doing too well for Space Wolves. So we've got that Necrons win rate. Obviously, the Canaptech core is coming out on top. 63% over the weekend. 57% since the data slate. I think them Wraiths are going to get a nerf, and I think the C'tan are going to get a nerf. I'd hope that that's the only 2 things they touch, the C'tans and the Wraiths, because I do think it could really, just them 2 things alone, or the Technomancer, maybe not the Wraiths, but the Technomancer. I think them 2 things alone, if they hit them, I think you could really see some difference in the win rates on Necrons. I'd worry if they touch too much more, because I think that then you'll see Necrons start to dive down. Thousand Suns. Again, Thousand Suns are sitting alright. I don't think they probably need to be touched. Demons, I think, are doing really well. Like, well, not really well, but I think they're sort of that mid-tier army, and if you've got the right player, they can do well. They've got enough tricks to play the game. It would be interesting to see once their codex comes out what sort of detachments they're going to come with. I'd like to see a Slaanesh pure one. Then we have the Custodes. Obviously, as we've said, they're doing very well. Tau, they're going to get a new codex very, very soon, so they won't be touched in a day. It's late. Blood Angels, 51%, 46%. Where's the Suns? Sons of Sanguinius, it's only 46% overall. Gladius Task Force done pretty well this weekend for the Blood Angels. Astra Militarum, 51% win rate this weekend, 46% overall. There's a big discussion online whether I've heard Vic and David Gaylard, Vic Vijay and David Gaylard talking about it on their Fireside podcast. Really good podcast, actually. Go and check it out if you're interested in competitive play. They think that they're top tier, and obviously David Gaylard showing that they're top tier. But is it one of those armies that's just got a high skill level? So you have to be a top tier player to be able to get the anything out of them. Whereas when you've got armies like Custodes and Necrons, I think that their skill gap isn't as high. Like, the likes of Necrons and Custodes, you can be a bit more of a mid-tier player and probably get some good results because you can rely on the durability a bit more. So it's an interesting debate about armies and, how they play. We have the Templars, again, Firestorm Assault, 80% win rate this weekend. Is that with a vehicle list? I'm assuming so. Heavy vehicle Templars, you've got the melters on them and everything else. 62% win rate with Firestorm Assault over. Ironstorm has a 58% win rate this week, but 64% over since the last balanced data slate. Gladius Task Force, 52% and 56% since the data slate. So Templars are, and the Righteous Crusade is bringing them down. 17 people playing the Righteous Crusade, and it's bringing their win rates down. Obviously, only 2 played the Firestorm Assault, but should that win rate be a lot higher? If you didn't have these people playing the Righteous Crusade, but I don't know, it's very hard to say. Sisters of Battle. We have the Hallowed Martyrs. Again, they're sitting pretty nicely at 53% win rate since the thing. We didn't see too many. There was a couple. Had an event win, and there was a couple of them in the top 10s and stuff. But I expected to see a few more. But I suppose they've only got 27 players. So, but yeah, 50% win rate over the weekend, and 53% since the data slate. I think they're sitting all right. I'm not sure if they need changing. Aeldari at 49% win rate over the weekend and 49% win rate since the data slate. Tony Chu took these this weekend, and he came third in the biggest event of the weekend with 263 players. So they're obviously okay. I don't think we need to do anything with Aeldari. I think this skill level on them again is, I think, a little bit higher, because I think if you make mistakes with Aeldari, you're going to get punished, and so that means that it's harder for lower skill players to play them. And obviously, Tony Chu is a very good player. He has a podcast as well, which is I think it's the England Team podcast. So check that out. Really interesting podcast as well. If you're into competitive play, especially, they talk a lot about teams and stuff like that. So, because obviously it's Team England, so it's really interesting. We have Chaos Knights at 49% win rate over the weekend, 48% since the data slate. Chaos Knights, obviously, I'll only ever see the War Dog spam. What I'd like to see them do is, I don't know when the codex is coming out for Chaos Knights, but what I'd like to see is them make the bigger knights actually useful I don't know how they do that, but at the moment it's just like everyone just takes War Dogs, and I think it's a shame because I think the big knights are cool, and it would be nice to see them. I don't know what you have to do that. I don't know whether you need to bring the OC down on the smaller knights and bring bigger knights, or make the bigger knights better in terms of data sheets. I don't know. I don't play Chaos Knights that much. I just know you've got War Dogs hitting on twos, which is outrageous because they're not custodies, so they shouldn't be hitting on twos. Okay, so we have Leagues of Votan with Oathbound, 49%, 49%. Again, I think Leagues of Votan are actually in a good spot. I'm expecting to see, when their codex comes out, I'm expecting to see a load of new units for them. We have seen recently in the kill team, I think it was the Adepticon preview, the kill team, there's going to be like almost like a ranger. They're like the pioneers, but not on the bikes. Or they're the Hernkin, but they're not on the bikes. So they're just sort of like, they're probably going to have infiltrate and stuff like that. I'm not sure how good they'll be, but yeah, probably got some sniper rifles and things like that. So Adeptus Mechanicus, we have the AdMech, 48% win rate this weekend. Obviously, there's a couple of players that done very well. That guy at the Manchester GT, which I really forgot his name. Apologies. He 48%, 43% win rate since the data slate. Radzone, that one guy who played him and got 100% over the weekend because he won that tournament. But AdMech, I mean, the guy who played them and got 4th at Manchester GT is obviously a very good player with them, and he's done very well. But I do think they need some help, and I don't think they need loads of help, but they need some help because you could quite easily put them over, and then they're just a bit overpowered, like back in 9th. But yeah, I'd like to see something happen there. Okay, we have Grey Knights, the Teleport Strike Force, 48% win rate over the weekend, 50% since the data slate. I think Grey Knights are actually in a really good position with this detachment. I think since the balanced data slate, they're a little bit more killy. They've got some really good rules and tricks to score points. They're not super killy, which is probably what keeps them balanced. So yeah, I think Grey Knights are actually in a good position. Drukhari, so Sky Splinter Assault is at a 48% win rate this weekend, 49% since the data slate. And that is the same as them overall. And that's actually all that got played this weekend. The other one didn't even get played. So I think that Drukhari is sitting in a good position. I think they're absolutely fine. Leave them. Let people play around with them, get new builds and stuff like that. And it'll be interesting to see when their codex comes out what they've got, what other detachments they've got, and how people can build. Orcs, I think the trouble with the Orcs is I feel like they're being held back by a couple of other armies, and they might need a little bit of help. I don't know enough about the Orcs' internal balance to know what that is, but I'm hoping that people that work at GW do, and they can just give them a little tweak, a little boost. But also they've got codex coming out, so I'm interested to see what happens. I'm sure they'll have like a speed war codex, a speed war in detachment. I reckon they'll have like a stomper, heavy mech, dreadnoughty, killer can detachment. They'll obviously have the one they've got, War Tribe, and then they'll have like a couple of others, like a grot detachment probably, and then something else. So it'd be really interesting to see how they play. We have the World Eaters, 47% win rate, 45% overall. Interestingly, Anthony Vanella does really, really well. The World Eaters still, but he is one of the best players in the world, so it's hard to go off just him. And obviously, if they're sitting at 45% win rate, maybe they need a little tweak, help them back out. Death Guard 47% win rate overall. I think the Death Guard are really good, and they've probably got some bad matchups, but I'm not sure. I certainly don't think you need to put Plague Marines down because they're lethal with that fight first and everything. But yeah, hopefully when they get their codex, they're going to put Mortarion up to 7 attacks. Imperial Knights, 45%, 47%. They're doing better than they were. Knights are one of those ones really hard to balance because they just have bad they're always going to have bad matchups unless they're just super overpowered. Then we have Dark Angels. Yeah, I mean, look at this. Iron Storm Spearhead, 56% over the weekend, 58% overall. Yeah, and then Dark Angels in general, 42% over the weekend, 47% overall. Now look at every single other thing. Unforgiven Task Force, 37%. Gladius, 42%. Firestorm, 38%. Vanguard, 39%. Stormlance, 44%. Not even playing, like, Unforgiven's the only one that got played out of their codex. It's just a shame. It's a shame to see a new codex, because if you collect any army, you know, when you get your codex, none of us want to see codex creep where it's just insane and it just upsets the whole game. But equally, we don't want to see people getting their codex and being like, this is terrible. Like, it's so bad, I can't really win with it. And I'd like to see some data sheet changes, to be honest, because some of the data sheets are just so lackluster. But I'd also, you know, the Lions got to get a drop. Some other things are going to have to get a drop in points. And I wonder what they'll do, whether they'll change the detachment rule, whether they'll, you know, or some detachment rules, or whether they'll just do points drops. It will be very interesting, because what you won't get points drops on is any of the vehicles, because they can play Ironstorm. And this is what I'm saying about, I've said this a few times in previous episodes, but I think one of the big problems is allowing Dark Angels, Blood Angels, Space Wolves, Death Watch, to even Black Templars, to use all of the Space Marines detachments, because it makes it so hard to balance not only the Dark Angels and all the rest of them, but it also makes it really hard to balance the Space Marines codex on its own. And I would like to see more restriction in that, and I'd like to see, because I think they could then make the Dark Angels detachments better, or the data sheets better, if the detachments aren't that good. Whereas if you make the data sheets better and they go, okay, I'm going to play Gladius Task Force, so I'm going to play this, or I'm going to play Firestorm Assault, or whatever it is. I know it's nice to have more options, but sometimes I think when you're talking about the game balance, it's not always good to have more options. And also, they're not codex compliant, so why should they be allowed to use the codex? You know, you've got to comply if you want to use our detachments. But yeah, that's just my 2 pennies worth. I don't know what you guys think. Maybe you guys think the choice is better, but I'd like to see a little bit more restriction there, and then just make things better, like make the Dark Angels better as their own army, make Space Wolves better as their own army. Maybe as the index, if they've still got an index, maybe allow them to use the Space Marines codex. But I think once they've got their own codex, they should only be using their own codex. Because there's a lot of Dark Angels players that don't want to play Ironstorm with loads of vehicles. They want to play Terminators and Ravenwing, you know. Space Marines, 41% win rate weekend, 41% win rate since the data slate. Vanguard done well this weekend, and that is about it. I think all of the Ironstorm players have just gone over the Dark Angels now, so, and that, you know, again, is a problem, I think. Or Templars. It's just always better options to take if you're going with any of these. It's just like, well, I might as well play like Space Wolves and just get some Thunderbolts, or I might as well play Dark Angels with Ironstorm and get the whatever they're called, Dark Trails and stuff like that. Like, doesn't make sense. Okay, next up, Tyranids, 41% win rate, 44% win rate since the data slate. They obviously need some points changes. Like I said, I'd like to see the ammo changed, because I think that's a bit. Oh, sorry, I missed a thingy from George. Leave the OC and make them less killy. Little Knights for mission. Okay, this is about Imperial Knights. Leave the OC and make them less killy. Little Knights for mission, big ones to kill stuff. Yeah. Yeah, you're probably right, George. The Little Knights need to, like, why are they hitting on twos? Yeah, make them less killy. You get the big ones out to kill stuff, and then the Armigers and the War Dogs should be for playing the mission. So yeah, Tyranids, I'd like to see ammo get rid of that ammo crap where you're just putting spore mines out and scoring points, and actually make Tyranids good as a faction, whether they need points drops. Unended Swarm done well at the weekend. The rest were very mediocre. Or below mediocre, should I say. Gene Stealer Cult, 40% win rate this weekend. 44% win rate. Only 10 players. 40% win rate since the data slate. I do think Gene Stealer Cult are not far off. They've got some good synergy with some of their things, but they do die to a stiff breeze. I think maybe they need some points decreases in certain places. Maybe the internal balance isn't great. So it'd be interesting to see if they do a few things with Gene Stealer Cult, which I'm sure they will. Deathwatch, George. What's happened to Deathwatch, mate? 29% win rate, 39% win rate since the data slate. It's bad times, isn't it? I mean, to me, it's quite clear they need to drop the kill teams in points, or even change the rules maybe on some of the kill teams if they're not sufficient. The Black Spear, I think the Black Spear Task Force is actually a good detachment. It's just like you're not really using, because you can pick up and put down. Sustained hits, lethal hits when you need them, things like that. I just feel like you can't use the kill teams with it because they're just they're not point sufficient. So, and really they should have addressed this in the last data slate, and they didn't. And I think it was a big oversight from GW. They just Deathwatch, they just didn't bother because they were already struggling. So I would like to see the kill teams go down in points a little bit, bring some balance back to the kill teams and the rest of the Space Marine book and the units, because there's some sort of like clear winners there. Yeah, but that is the meta for the weekend. Anyone got any thoughts? Have I spoken out of turn? Do you think I'm wrong on anything? Do you think that all of the non-codex compliance Space Marine chapters should be able to use the Space Marine Codex for the detachments? Yeah. What I will say though, overall, I think that the game is not in a bad place. I mean, when you're looking, at win percentages, and I know win percentages aren't everything because win percentages swing. Like for instance, let's just take the Sisters of Battle, right? If you'd had, like, for instance, I don't know, Vic Vijay, Tony Chu, Manny Chima, a few good players, like top tier players, take these, that weekend win rate could be 70-80%, So, and then they could switch off for something else. You've got to take win rates. It's a rough guide. It's a rough guide on the win rates. And I don't think it's not a be all and end all. But I do think overall, like, the game seems like it's in a good position. Like, you've got Death Guard winning a tournament, Grey Knights winning a tournament, you've got Admech winning a tournament, you've got Sisters winning a tournament. Obviously Necrons winning more than probably they should be. Space Wolves winning a tournament, and you've got, in all these top tens, you've got a lot of other armies up here, like the Templars, like the Blood Angels, the Demons. So there is a good mix. Yeah, there is some that are, but even the ones that are struggling, right? Let's take Tyranids, because in the Meta Monday they've said that they're struggling. They're still in some of these top tens, like, so although they're below, probably, under average in terms of maybe their points or whatever, people, good players can still use them and do well with them at events. Like, you've got a Votann here, 2 Votanns in the top 10, and Votann won one as well, I believe. Tau winning events. You've got Demons up here again, World Eaters up here. World Eaters, So you got Orcs, and Orcs aren't doing great, but they're still, they're still able to be up there. So I do think that overall, as a game, like, and considering how many different rules there are, and all of the, you then got to take in. George says, I don't think Tyranids need a points drop. They already have a lot of units and very cheap chaff, lone op, etc. Think they need a different tweak. What is that tweak though, George? Because they do have a lot of chaff, but their chaff dies to a stiff breeze. I know that obviously the invasion fleet is a bit different because then you can bring stuff back and things like that. But I don't know. But maybe it's not their chaff that needs points drops. Maybe it's some of their big monsters. Maybe, I don't know what it is. But I also think if you take away that whole Biovore ammo thing, it makes life harder for them. So you would need to drop some points somewhere. I think. I might be wrong. But yeah, going back to, I think there's a lot of, with all of the rules and everything else, there's a good spread of armies being able to compete at the top level. And like, take Space Marines, for instance. Space Marines, most people, when they get into Warhammer 40k, they start playing Space Marines. So when you're going to have those people, maybe not that new, but then they'll start going to tournaments, and that will bring the Space Marines down. And that's why I think if you ever see Space Marines at like 53% win rate, they're probably overpowered, because if they're at 53% win rate overall, and on average, then the good players are going to do so well with them. I mean, you can see that when you get players like John Lennon take them and things like that. They're still doing really well. So I think GW are doing a good job. I think there's definitely internal balances that can be done, and I hope they continue to try and balance the indexes and the codexes internally as much as they can. You can't expect it to all go swimmingly every time. They're going to make mistakes, but I think overall they're doing a good job. What do you guys think? I will say I played George the other day with his Death Watch, and he killed 800 points of my army in turn 2. So, Space Marines are all right. I did end up winning, but that was George's fault, though. He should have won that game. So yeah, I will be doing a video with my brother about his Manchester GT, Manchester Super Major tournament. He done very well. It'd be great to speak to him and see how his list runs. But that is me for today. I hope you have enjoyed the video. I will be back again next week. Will I be back next week? Next week is Easter Monday. I might be, I might not be, because I think I've actually got a game on the channel. Just depends what time that game takes place. But hopefully I'll be about to chat 40k. So thank you very much, guys. Please like and subscribe, because it really, really helps the channel, helps the videos. And I will see you in the next one. Thanks.